I'm too pumped up. You know, I've been telling everybody about this, but there's one person that I forgot to tell. Do you mind if very close to you may know him, Dwayne The Rock?
A red carpet or a press interview, and suddenly Kevin Hart turns it into pure unscripted mayhem that takes over the internet. From sitting beside Dwayne Johnson in Jumanji to viral talk show appearances and even celebrity moments that totally went off the rails, Hart does not need a setup. He just needs a crowd and a little bit of time. So why does every single situations around Kevin Hart seem to explode into comedy gold? And what do his most iconic unscripted moments actually show us about him? Join us as we break down Kevin Hart's most legendary unscripted disasters. The car seat that ignited a war. Nothing in the long history of Kevin Hart and Dwayne Johnson captures their bizarre dynamic better than what went down on the set of Jumanji 4 in March 2026. The whole cast was squeezed into a car on location. Johnson in the front seat next to Jack Black, Kevin Hart wedged into the back with Karen Gillan and Alex Wolff, and Kevin made the fatal mistake of whining about the legroom. Dwayne's comeback was instant and landed with the cold precision of someone who had been waiting years to fire off that specific insult at the perfect moment. He told Hart that his legs were only 2 feet long. Who even cares? Your legs are just 2 feet long. And everyone in that car except Kevin burst into hysterical laughter. Kevin's response was a full profanity-laced meltdown that Johnson then recorded and posted to Instagram with a caption that became a comedy classic explaining how he loved his son Kevin Hart with all his heart. But when Kevin got whiny about his car seat, he wanted to slap his little lips right off his annoying punchable face. The video racked up views so fast it became one of the most shared behind-the-scenes clips in the entire franchise. And Kevin's move was to do exactly what he always does, flip the whole thing around and use it as ammunition. He posted his own video secretly, filming Johnson eating lunch during a break on that same set, narrating the entire thing, while Johnson sat completely oblivious, adding commentary about how vital it was to avoid getting dizzy if you skipped your meal. The clip went viral, with over 83 million views. When Dwayne finally realized what Kevin had done, he commented from his own account that Kevin really should let the man eat in peace with his tiny little tin and his oversized spoon. Back and forth forever for a decade. One of the most telling details in this specific chapter was when Johnson posted separately about how brutal it was to listen to Kevin tell a story without every fiber of his being screaming at him to make Kevin stop talking. Said he smiled and even offered some sweet words of encouragement just to make Kevin feel seen. Then he finished the post by saying he could listen to Jack Black tell stories for hours. That final line, the dig aimed at someone else right after the gentle roast, is the specific comedic weapon Dwayne and Kevin have spent 10 years sharpening on each other. It works because it is delivered with genuine affection. Both guys know the game they are playing. The audience feels it. That is exactly why this particular bromance keeps pumping out content that the internet just cannot ignore. But what happens when the legroom complaint hits a platform way bigger than Instagram? The roast that nobody was ready for. In May 2025, Netflix hosted the roast of Kevin Hart live at the Kia Forum in Los Angeles for the Netflix is a Joke Festival. Live from the big Netflix is a Joke Festival. Welcome to the official roast of Kevin Hart. The panel featured Tom Brady Chelsea, Handler, Pete Davidson Lizzo, Jeff Ross, Tony Hinchcliffe, and Tiana Taylor. The event lasted 3 hours, and honestly, the most popular targets all night were Hart's height, his hit-or-miss filmography, and his estranged father. But the two moments that nobody saw coming were not on the confirmed guest list. Dwayne Johnson arrived late in the show, walked into rock music with full pro wrestling energy, and announced he had waited his whole life for the chance to come to a Kevin Hart roast, have some fun, and just tell the truth. Johnson then proceeded to compliment every woman on the dais before stopping to specifically shout out Kevin's wife, Eniku, who was sitting right there in the audience. He told the room he wanted to give her a special shout out. Then he mentioned she had already seen the life-sized Kevin Hart tattoo. He had gotten a joke built in such a way that it could only imply one thing, which caused Kevin to lunge forward from his chair and demand to know why Johnson would say that about his wife. Dwayne's defense was that Kevin had told him he could say whatever he wanted that night. Kevin's response was that he needed to have a private talk with Johnson after the show. The Aniku comment got the loudest reaction of the night from Kevin. It was a raw, unscripted burst of outrage. Lasted 15 seconds flat before Kevin just started laughing. Because honestly, what else could he do? But that wasn't all. Another surprise guest was walking up. And this guy, he had zero love for Kevin. Cat Williams was the other unannounced guest, and he spent 2024 calling Kevin an industry plant while taking brutal, pointed shots at his career and his character. The beef was incredibly real. The tension stepping onto that roast stage was thick. Then Cat grabbed the mic and delivered a set that was reportedly so razor sharp, the room went deathly silent before erupting into laughter. What the roast actually achieved beyond the typical jabs was something genuinely rare for this format. It ended the ugly public feud between Kevin and Cat right there in front of a live audience. Two guys who had been throwing damaging comments at each other for a full year sat in that same building and finally found the comedic common ground that was supposedly always there. Kevin and Cat actually made peace that night. I want to be a brother. I want to be a friend. Cat, I want to move on. Say, can we move on, man? Which means a Netflix roast somehow settled something that endless press releases and public statements had failed to fix for months. Kevin Hart let people say the worst things anyone had ever said about him on camera in front of millions of live viewers, and he just sat there, took it, and laughed. That isn't easy, and it is exactly why the roast format acts as the ultimate test of a comedian's confidence. And that same habit of diving into situations where he might get embarrassed is why Kevin Hart is so entertaining to watch. He never avoids moments that could turn into a disaster. He charges right into them, jokes first, asking questions later. So when he lines up for something like a 40-yard dash against a professional athlete, the only real question is, does he actually think he can win, or does he just crave the wild chaos that follows when trash talk met cold reality? In August 2023, Kevin Hart challenged former NFL running back Stephen Ridley to a 40-yard dash after what he called a casual debate about who was faster. Kevin insisted he still had speed and treated it like a fun ego test. Stephen Ridley, a Super Bowl winning Patriots veteran who ran a 4.66 second 40-yard dash at the NFL Combine, had a very different standard for what fast means. The race itself was short, informal, and brutally honest. Kevin went full throttle trying to keep pace with a pro athlete built for explosive acceleration. Video shared later showed Stephen Ridley pulling ahead immediately with Kevin pushing through anyway until something snapped mid-sprint. That snap became the turning point. Kevin later revealed he tore his lower abdomen and hip adductor muscles during the run. Injuries severe enough to leave him unable to walk for a while and needing a wheelchair for his recovery. His reaction turned the moment into total viral chaos. In an Instagram video, Kevin admitted he had to sit down describing himself as the stupidest man alive and warning fans that age 40 is real, insisting people respect it or it will make you respect it. Ladies and gentlemen, the age 40 is real. So all my men and women out there that are 40 years old and above it is not a game. Seriously respect that age. The recovery period was not just physical. It became absolute comedy gold. Kevin joked about his condition while explaining the harsh reality of trying to perform an all-out sprint effort at 44, saying it had nothing to do with being in shape and everything to do with underestimating basic physics. What made the moment stick wasn't just the injury, it was the pattern. Kevin's instinct to turn competition into comedy even when the punchline is his own body giving out. And this time, the score was final. That pattern shows up everywhere in Kevin Hart's life. Even when things are supposed to be serious, competitive, or carefully managed, he turns them into a running joke without even trying. Which is why a simple driving lessons on television was never going to stay simple for very long. The most chaotic driving lesson in television history. On January 5th, 2016, Conan O'Brien's show aired what became one of the most watched segments in the program's entire run. A remote where Conan, Kevin, and Ice Cube attempted to help one of Conan's staff members, Diana Chang, obtain her driver's license. Who is this Diana driving? She's the driver man. By joining her for a driving lesson in Los Angeles, the moment all three of them squeezed into that car together, the actual driving lesson became instantly secondary to all the madness that was happening. Kevin, Ice Cube, and Conan all tried at once to give Diana advice on how to handle aggressive drivers. None of the advice was practical. Most of it was profane. And all of it was delivered with total conviction by three guys who had no business being in a driver's education car. Riding together. That wild road trip included a stop at a dispensary, a weird detour for a piñata, and a run-in with a bicycle cop that somehow ended without anyone getting in trouble, plus a stop at Popeyes, which is the most classic Kevin Hart way to end a disastrous driving lesson ever. What made that segment work beyond the three big personalities clashing in a tiny car was the specific chemistry between them. Ice Cube stayed deadpan. Kevin was explosive and Conan was just pure. Bewildered confusion, a comedy triangle nobody could have ever planned. Ice Cube constantly roasted Kevin, while Kevin screamed back about Cube being too chill. Conan narrated the mess with the look of a guy who realized he made a huge tactical error but had to finish the ride. That remote became one of the most viral clips of 2016 because it felt totally raw and dangerous, unlike most scripted TV. Diana driving was actually terrifying. The advice was completely conflicting. The police encounter was real life. Nothing was sanitized, which is why people still watch it a decade later. Kevin Hart's specific contribution, his incredible ability to react with the full intensity of someone who feels like every situation is a personal attack, provides that non-stop energy. But things get complicated when Kevin's frantic reactions are turned against him in an environment with absolutely no safety net. Dealing with a furious Michael Jordan in person, one of the best stories in Kevin Hart's history. With stars involves Michael Jordan, a guy who is honestly one of the most competitive and least amused people to ever walk the earth. Kevin shared how he once heckled Michael Jordan at a basketball game with the total confidence of a man who didn't realize the trap he was walking into. The story came out on Jimmy Kimmel Live and became one of Kevin's ultimate crowd favorites. It's the tale of what happens when a small comedian sitting courtside won't stop bothering one of the greatest athletes who has ever lived and then realizes he has to face the consequences. The real pleasure here is the escalation. Kevin starts off feeling completely untouchable. He is Kevin Hart. He is famous. He can handle it. But the situation dismantles his ego bit by bit as Jordan responds in ways Kevin just never saw coming. The punchline isn't one moment. It's the dawning realization that there are certain people you should never target when you are sitting close enough for them to stare directly into your soul. Michael Jordan is one of those people. Kevin's gift for telling this story and making himself the butt of the joke instead of the hero is why it works. He isn't bragging about getting Michael Jordan's attention. He is describing the pure, painful humiliation of learning that catching Michael Jordan's attention was a massive mistake. Comedians who can pull that off, who make the audience laugh with them at their own expense rather than at someone else, are the ones who stay on top. But what happens when the celebrity is someone he has been feuding with publicly and genuinely for years? The family dinner that became a legendary Kevin Hart story. Kevin Hart has spent years turning family drama into gold, but one restaurant story explains exactly why fans connect to him the way they do. It's not just the jokes, it's that he processes awkward moments faster than anybody else, usually before others even realize what's happening. And according to Kevin 1, family dinner spiraled so fast it stopped being a meal and turned into live-action group therapy. The story starts at a big family dinner, the kind of loud gathering where everyone talks over each other before the menus even arrive. Kevin called the vibe packed loud and totally chaotic. Then, suddenly his nephew stood up and made a surprise announcement that froze the whole table. I want you all to know I am gay. We are in a private room, and my nephew stands up. He says, I brought y'all here because I want you to know I'm gay. It was so fast. According to Kevin, the timing made it even more wild because nobody was emotionally ready for that drop. Folks had barely found their seats. Some were still grabbing drinks, others were ordering snacks. Then in an instant, the entire energy of the dinner shifted. Kevin said the room went dead silent as everyone tried to process it, scramble for a response. Because he is Kevin Hart, he immediately felt the pressure to be the voice of the table. He has described trying to navigate that moment carefully while processing everything in real time. For a quick second, he tried to pivot into being a supportive family member and calm the mounting tension before things got weird. But the thing about Kevin Hart family stories is that peace never lasts long. Before the conversation could settle, one of his aunts apparently decided the brutal honesty should just keep on going. She jumped in with a confession of her own acting, like this was the start of a deep truth session. Kevin realized immediately the dinner was slipping away, and that is where the comedian totally took the lead. His reaction was instant. Sit your fat ass down, Pat. That one line shifted the vibe of the whole restaurant. Instead of just another emotional family moment, the gathering turned into what Kevin later called a full-blown roast. The tension snapped because everyone started laughing, even relatives who, seconds before, did not know where to look. Kevin's instinct was not to dodge the awkwardness, but to tackle it head on before it could take over. Even at a family dinner, he cannot shut that switch off. But what happens when Hart hits something he seriously cannot find funny? The wax figure he called a direct attack. In March 2026, the Hollywood Wax Museum in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, debuted a new wax figure of Kevin Hart. Kevin reacted the only way Kevin Hart knows how to react to anything, with a total emotional breakdown performed, purely for the sake of being hilarious. Kevin posted a clip of the statue with the Curb Your Enthusiasm theme song playing. Over it asked the camera what he did to these people called the whole thing. An attack demanded to know who the statue was meant to be, and insisted the museum staff were specifically trying to make him cry. He claimed these museums are just out to make him cry, and then he demanded a total redo. Every word he said was technically the reaction of a man who was upset. Every word was also side-splittingly funny. The brilliance of the post and the exact skill that separates Kevin Hart from less talented comedians is that he grasped instantly that the funniest possible answer to a bad wax figure was the biggest, most outsized reaction, not a calm, polite critique of the artist's work, but a full spiral. Dwayne Johnson's response in the comments was to say the piece was perfect and he would not change one thing. Don Cheadle's reaction was to simply post 2 words, cook him along with fire icons. Jamila Jamil called it the worst wax figure she had ever seen of any person. Marcus Houston, the former Sister Sister star, argued that the figure was not Kevin Hart, but a guy named Devin Hart. The comment section became its own comedy sketch completely separate from Kevin's original. Post a crowdsourced roast of a wax statue that nobody believed actually looked like the famous actor. The museum got way more attention from Kevin's public meltdown than it would have received from any standard press release. And Kevin got to be the funniest person in his own thread, which is the entire point of the game. When has Kevin been at his absolute funniest on a giant televised stage with no chance to edit or fix his mistakes? The best friend he simply cannot stop roasting. The Kevin Hart and Dwayne Johnson bromance deserves its own longs. Breakdown, because it is not just a standard celebrity friendship or a basic professional partnership. It is one of the most enduring, most successful, and most genuinely hilarious creative pairings in modern Hollywood, and the specific ways that it functions reveal something honest about what Kevin Hart is actually doing. The social media feud between the pair is built on a real competitive chemistry. Dwayne usually has the physical upper hand, because the height difference between them is honestly absurd. But Kevin lands his best shots because he understands exactly where Dwayne's real vulnerabilities are and hits them with total precision. The legroom complaint on the Jumanji 4 set was not a fluke. Kevin has made the height difference a running gag for years. So the moment he walked onto that movie set, and there was literally not enough legroom for him in the back seat, he knew. He had already identified it as comedy gold before Dwayne Johnson even said a word. Dwayne's post about wanting to listen to Kevin tell a story, while trying to stop himself from telling him to be quiet, and the follow-up praise for Jack Black is a perfect example of the classic move Dwayne uses most effectively. He builds Kevin up enough to make it feel real, then deflates him at exactly the right second, and then throws the compliment to someone else in the same breath. Kevin knows he is being played. The audience knows Kevin knows. The laughter comes from everyone getting the joke at the same time. Dwayne Johnson and his Jumanji 4 car seat video went viral with fans calling the clips a movie. People said a full documentary of Kevin and Dwayne just hanging out on set would be better than the actual film. That might be right, but what is for sure is that their chemistry created a decade of gold. It is content that neither of them could have ever pulled off all by themselves. What really makes Kevin Hart funny is not just his jokes, physical comedy, or his Instagram feed. It is the fact that he is honestly deep down totally unable to let anything just slide. He reacts to terrible wax figures. He reacts to tiny plane seats. He reacts to Dwayne eating lunch. He hits back at every single roaster on a Netflix stage. The drama finds him because he cannot ignore it. Which moment here is actually his funniest? Was it that total meltdown on the Jumanji movie set? That roast that basically became a peace treaty? Or the classic student driver bit the internet still loves? Is there a celebrity you are dying to see Kevin Hart have a funny moment with? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Please like, share, and subscribe for more celebrity gossip. Also, click that next video on your screen right now. You are going to enjoy it.